faint on the Castile.
He gave me a piece of advice when I first joined Coronation Street. And I'm walking up the corridor and this voice says, "Now then, Tommy." So I said, "Bernard, how are you?" I'm all right," he said. And he said, "You seem to be doing well. You're doing well, lad. You're doing well. Little bit of advice for you. Pay your taxes. Pay your taxes, son." And I said, "See you, Bernard." And he's quite right. You pay your taxes. Make sure you pay your taxes.
Unbelievable. We had the social security here the other week. I looked over there. There's only two behind the fucking bar.
Part of Bernard's humour is potentially quite self-destructive. He will make jokes about the beer in his own club. Now, I wouldn't want to get into this, but the beer in his own club isn't, frankly, of the strongest. And he will make jokes about it being watered down. There was once a fire at the club, and he makes jokes about, all the terrible things that went in this fire as far as the insurance people were concerned.
Lost a solid gold Omega watch, £6,000 worth of.
Did you?
Rummaging all night with the firemen. They said, "I don't think we're going to find this watch, Bernard." And I thought, "I'm bleeding sure you're not."
I'm sure it's all above board. He's not a financial criminal of any sort, but he likes to give the impression he is.
It was a lovely fire. It was a lovely fire.
It's a great
I'll tell you how
fire.
to start a good fire. Get a lively rat.
Yes.
And dip a rag in a cloth in petrol and tie it to its tail. Light it and shove it through the door. And you've got about 16 fires going in about 2 minutes. The rat gets cremated and you don't know how it started. Now, the Irish club lower down than me, they tried it with a toy choice and... they can't stop us laughing. I once got sacked for laughing. Man, you're driving a fucking hearse at the time. I've never got on a stage and died in my life. I've never come off to the sound of my own footsteps. Now, there's not many comics can say that.
I went to Bernard and said, "Look, we can get you on at the MGM Las Vegas, but we're going to shoot it, and however you go, whether you die or whether you're wonderful or whatever you are, we're going to show it."
This is it. Direct from Las Vegas, Nevada, the MGM Grand Hotel proudly presents Direct from the Embassy Club, Harbor A, Manchester, England, Mr. Bernard Manning. Here we go.
He could have died a death, of course, but as it happened, he went very well.
The American comedy's got to be slick. And so Enoch Powell became Governor Wallace over there, who was the bigot.
George Wallace died, knocked on the gates of heaven, and the voice said, "Who dat?" Oh, I said, "Forget it."
I told him he should never have impeached President Nixon.
He should have let Teddy Kennedy drive him home.
And they like the Jewish material over there.
My old school teacher was Jewish, what they call an unorthodox Jew. He was a Nazi.
Jewish humour is the funniest in the world. They've always bounced lines off each other. And that's the way to go through life. Otherwise, it's going to be a terrible, miserable life.
4 Jews playing dominoes, frightened to knock in case the waiter came over.
Whenever he announced me, "Here's my friend, Benny Sternberg, the most hated Jew in England." And that wasn't bad. And then about a month later, he promoted me.
Benny Sternberg here, the most hated Jew in Europe.
Which I was quite happy about that, because that's lovely promotion.
He claims Jewish ancestry. I don't know whether he has Jewish ancestry. I don't know whether it's significant or not. I would not like to think that a person with any element of Jewish genes in his makeup should believe that he can make jokes which other people from other minorities find offensive.
My father's father was Jewish. He came from Sebastopol in Russia. And he died in the Strand Cafe in America of heart attack. And he had 2 brothers called Nathan and Maya. Nathan and Maya. So I know there's a bit of Jew. I've never heard of them, never seen them. The father and mother was very happily married, never discussed it, because I suppose of the Germans seeing Jews off during the war.
Obviously, if Bernard had been making these jokes in Nazi Germany, everybody would have been roaring with laughter. It would have been the stuff of comedy. Clearly it was. Forgive me saying so, I think Hitler would think Bernard Manning was a very funny man.
What about the Jewish suicide pilot crashed his plane in his brother's scrapyard?
Outside his door, he's got a sign which says Shalom. And for the people who don't know what it means, it's a Jewish expression, which means peace.
Had the Nazis successfully invaded, I think there are quite a few comedians who appear on our screens who would have done the odd, Führer command performance and a few Gestapo socials. But I think Bernard would have been taken outside and shot on the first day.
2 Jews about to be shot by the Gestapo, A behind me. Stood there. Any last request before you're shot? He said, can we stand behind the wall? I said, you cannot stand behind the wall. Stand still. Navy stepped forward. He said, you dirty German bastard. Fuck you and Adolf Hitler. And he says, don't cause trouble.
Marvellous stuff. Dangerous as hell. Unbelievable.
The bells are ringing for me and my girl. The birds are singing for me and my girl. Everybody's been knowing.
I think the first time I met him was on Wheel Tappers and Shunters. And it was really funny, because I'd stepped in to help out because one of the waitresses was ill. So I didn't know the routine, and what you had to do is you had to go around the audience with his tray drinks. And he used to stand on the corner, introducing the artists. So once or twice I had to push past him, and I bet he thought, what's up with her? Anyway, in the end I said, can you move? And he said, you're a rum bugger, you. And honest to God, we clicked from then on.
That was a great show, that. We've got real beer. It was real beer. There was real flat caps, real people. Colin was marvellous on the bell. The old chairman, God rest his soul, old Colin, he was a very funny man.
There was a great chemistry between Colin Crompton and Bernard, and they both used to write their own lines. We tried writers, but no one could grasp what was required.
Bernard Delfont, the big impresario, was passing this building site. This Irish fella did 6 double somersaults, 4 backflips, a jackknife landed on his feet. He said, I'll boot you for Sunday night at the London Palladium. He said, I'll boot you for Sunday night at the London Palladium. Just in case you cut into that one. He said, I'll boot you for Sunday night at the London Palladium. The foreman said, you'll have to take Big Paddy with him. He said, why? Because he said he's the one who's just hit him on the fingers with a sledgehammer. Yes, I knew this was coming. Will you learn your job?
My original synopsis explained that you had this ignorant chairman plus a singer compere, who had appeared on Opportunity Knocks but hadn't won, and disliked every act, especially the other comedians that would appear on the show and would take the mickey out of them. And it struck me that Bernard was the obvious choice for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, if there's ever a nuclear attack, it's all round to the next artist's house, because he's never had a hit for years.
Bernard would introduce me something like, now we've got a lad here called Bill Tarmy. He's not a bad singer. I suppose he could hear worse, but it takes a bloody finding. Which was Bernard. And by the time he came on to start one song, you were in hysterics.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a lot of accidents with guitar players in clubs just lately. A few guitar players have been plugging in the wrong plugs and getting killed. Let's hope it happens tonight.
He's the master of insult on a scale that very few comedians can really get away with. There's nobody in his audience who's sacred.
Was it cold in the ground this morning? Say hello to Roy Orbison when you get back, tell him we're all together. And they know you don't mean it. They know you're only saying it for a laugh. And that's the main thing. You must never take it serious. And if you was my daughter, I'd still be fucking bathing you.
I think he gets more pleasure out of seeing people's faces turn and say, I can't believe what he said there. and that is Bernard's technique. It is shock.
Enough grease on them trousers to make a pan of chips, you scruffy back.
You're always a bit wary about going to the Embassy Club. You sort of sneak in the back, because if Bernard's on stage and he actually sees you coming in, you know you're going to get a lot of ribbing. So you sort of do the leopard crawl under tables and chairs to try and get in the corner.
Is it Guy Fawkes? Who is it, that? bloody state of that.
If he saw you, you know, I mean, he looks as though he'd had eyes in the back of his head, you know, and he would see you and bang, he'd hit you with some gag, so keep your head down.
Everybody's got a right to be ugly, but you abuse a bleeding privilege, you know that, don't you?
He makes no apologies for cruelty. But that reflects the type of background that he and his audience come from, which is a tough, hard, no favours given background, where you had to work hard and still do have to work hard to make any sort of a living. And Manning's humour reflects that toughness of the inner streets of Manchester.
Shut up, you fine bastard, get home. You don't swear in here, it's our bleeding club, not yours, you know. You learn to tame hecklers, you've got to make them look foolish. Because they can't win. They cannot win. There's no way you can win against the microphone. He might be the funniest man in the world, but nobody can hear him, only 2 or 3 people that sat around him. You've got an audience of 1,000 people, there's 2 people heard what he said to you. Yet the 1,000 people have heard exactly what I've said to him. What's he celebrating? No school in the morning, no, was he? But them your first teeth, them, aren't they? You're fucking lost if you don't start laughing, I'm telling you. Fucking me about.
When he's actually telling a gag, it's as though he's telling it to you personally. You know, like he's saying, here, listen to this one.
Woman walked into an ironmonger's shop, she said, will you give me a screw for an old back door? He said, certainly, if you're good, I'll pay for your dinner as well. When I speak to people, it's like being in my own home. I talk to them and I'm not like in a theatre. This tramp knocked at this door. Fella come to the door, he says, what do you want? He said, have you got a piece of cake? He said, a piece of cake? He said, you're a cheeky, hard-faced gadget. He said, asking for cake. He said, yes, it's my birthday. He said, I'm an old soldier. He said, have you been to the front? He said, yes, but I couldn't get any answer. A good gag, a hidden punchline. I've heard this story before, you're thinking to yourself, and then all of a sudden, you haven't heard it before. You see, and then there's topical things like, years ago, that murderer, what's his name? Fred West. The police got him in. They said, how many people have you killed? He said, 7. They said, we fucking dug 12 up. He said, I know, but I'm a builder. That's just a fucking estimate.
He's a naughty, naughty boy. I was doing a great ball at one of the hotels in Manchester. I forget which it is now. And Bernard was doing the comedy spot. Duke of Westminster, rather far back, was the chief guest. So I'm on my feet, I'm doing the auction, we're raising this, that, and the other. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for comedy. I present to you, very proudly, Mr. Bernard Manning. So half the audience got up and walked out. Right away, as if on cue, they all got exit everyone, you see. So he stood up and he promised he's going to be clean. He says he's going to be clean. I'm sitting next to the Duke of Westminster and he said, first of all, I want to tell you about these 2 fucking nuns on the zebra crossing. You can't believe it, because my wife's saying, it's a white knuckle ride with Bernard.
Scouts have got for a prostitute. She said, would you like a blowjob? He said, will it affect me dole money?
Manchester had that many clubs in the 70s. Theatre clubs with 10 comics on and 10 strippers entertaining 700 men a night and stag nights and things. And there were bound to be blue stuff in there, you know what I mean? But no, if it's done tastefully, if it's done funny.
Not everybody enjoys a blue gag. Some people wouldn't. You know, my mother wouldn't. My mother didn't like blue stories. Oh, no. She was very deaf and she didn't hear half a set. But she didn't like blue stories. She was a real lady. She'd say, what did he say then? And one of the waiters would say, oh, it's nothing, Mr. Manning, it's all right.
I think she knew exactly what was going on, but she, as you say, she turned a deaf ear to it because she used to say to him, now, don't be too rude, will you?
There's 2 cows talking in the field. One said, what do you think about the mad cow disease? The other one said, it don't affect me, I'm a fucking duck.
I mean, I wince when he swears. Instead of saying there's this chap in the bar, he says there's this effing chap in this effing bar. And for me, it's unnecessary. Bernard will say that that's what people are used to now, and that's what they want.